I saved our family business, then they gave it to my brother. Here's my revenge. Hey, my name's Tyler. I'm 34 now, and what I'm about to share is the kind of story you'd expect from a bad drama series, except this was my real life. If you've ever been loyal to a fault, especially to family, and then had that loyalty thrown back in your face, you'll get it. You'll really get it. This isn't just about a business. It's about legacy, choices, and the kind of betrayal that cuts deeper than most people realize. Years ago, I gave up what most would call a dream job, a high-potential role at a tech startup with stock options and a clear path to six figures, because I believed my family needed me. Our family import business was circling the drain, and someone had to step up. That someone became me. Let me paint the picture. The company was founded by my great-grandfather, passed down to my grandfather, then to my dad. It wasn't a flashy company by any means, but it had heritage. We specialized in unique, high-demand items from overseas and had a solid niche market. Our clients were loyal. Our employees? Many of them had worked there longer than I'd been alive. It was one of those rare places where people cared about what they were doing. Then disaster hit. I was 24, just getting my footing in the world, fresh out of school, landing a job that made my professors jealous. I was on the fast track in the tech world until my dad's accident turned everything upside down. He was driving home from a late meeting, fell asleep at the wheel, and crashed into a barrier. The doctors said it was a miracle he survived. But the man who came out of that wreck wasn't the same. He suffered severe brain trauma and was left paralyzed for nearly 2 years. Everything fell on us, his sons. My older brother, Nate, was the golden child growing up. Charming, outgoing, always had that natural leader energy. But when the crisis hit, Nate vanished. He didn't want the pressure. He told us straight up, "I'm not cut out for this kind of responsibility." And just like that, he was gone. Out of the office, out of the conversation. And me? I stayed. I didn't think twice. I packed up my apartment, left the job I had dreamed of, and moved back home. I walked into that creaky old office building and told everyone that I was taking over. No business degree, no formal training, just heart, desperation, and a gut feeling that if I didn't act, everything my family built would die. What followed was a brutal grind. I'm talking 16-hour days, 7-day weeks. I answered every phone call, handled every invoice, and learned every part of the supply chain from scratch. I ate ramen at my desk, crashed on the worn-out couch in the break room more times than I can count, and poured myself into that company. And slowly, it worked. Within a year, I had us breaking even. By the second year, we were profitable. I brought in new tech systems to modernize operations, hired talented people to replace outdated roles, and restructured contracts with vendors to improve margins. I wasn't just managing, I was rebuilding. The company was evolving under my leadership, and for the first time in years, the future looked bright. I became the official CEO. My name was on the contracts. I was the face of the company at trade shows. I had employees stopping me in the hallway just to thank me for keeping their jobs. For the first time, I felt like I was living a purpose. And then, just when I thought we had made it, my dad passed away. The grief was overwhelming, but I held it together. I thought I'd done right by him, by our legacy. I thought my commitment meant something. I thought I'd earned my place. But I was wrong. They say funerals bring families together, but in my case, it tore everything apart. My dad's service was beautiful, quiet, intimate, the kind of gathering he would have appreciated. No frills, just stories, tears, and a soft send-off. People I hadn't seen in years showed up to pay their respects. Some old employees even took the day off to attend. It reminded me of just how many lives he'd impacted through that business. After the service, we all headed back to my mom's place for a small gathering. Nate actually showed up, which surprised me. He'd been distant the whole time my dad was in hospice, but suddenly he was shaking hands, laughing with family, being the guy everyone remembered from childhood. I told myself to ignore it. It wasn't the time to start anything. Then came the will reading. It was a week later, in my father's attorney's office. I expected it to be straightforward. After all, everyone knew I was the one who had saved the company. I had built it back from the brink. I assumed there'd be some kind of acknowledgement, maybe a majority stake in the company, or at least clear succession. Instead, I got blindsided. My dad left the controlling share of the company to Nate. Not 50-50, not a partnership, full control. Nate was named successor CEO, and I was offered a consultant role, no equity, no authority, no say. The room went silent. Even Nate looked surprised, though whether it was genuine or rehearsed, I couldn't tell. I was stunned. The lawyer kept reading, but I barely heard a word. I kept replaying it in my mind. How could this happen? After everything I sacrificed? After rebuilding the company from rubble? Once the meeting ended, I pulled the lawyer aside. I asked if there had been a mistake. He showed me the paperwork, signed and notarized months earlier, when my dad was already slipping mentally. My heart sank. Nate approached me afterward like we were old pals. "Hey, man, I didn't know he was going to do that. I figured we'd split things or something. But, I mean, maybe we can find a way to work together." I stared at him. This guy hadn't lifted a finger for the company in nearly a decade. Now he was suddenly talking about collaboration? I walked out without saying another word. I drove around for hours that day. No destination. Just me, the road, and a voice in my head that kept repeating, "You were never supposed to win." If you've ever been shoved aside after doing all the hard work, then you know how this part feels. It's not just painful, it's humiliating. After the will was read, I took a few days off to clear my head. I didn't go into the office, didn't answer calls. I needed time to grieve, and not just my dad, but everything I thought I'd earned. I figured Nate would stay hands-off for a while, especially considering how clueless he was about the actual day-to-day operations. But I was wrong. Dead wrong. The first blow came via email. One of the managers I hired forwarded me a message titled, "Org Chart Update." Nate had already begun restructuring. He named himself CEO, appointed an old college buddy as COO, and moved me to a non-voting advisory board position. It wasn't just a demotion, it was a message. "Thanks for your service. You're not needed anymore." I walked into the office the next morning out of pure disbelief. The receptionist, whom I'd known for 6 years, looked up and hesitated before saying, "Tyler, I thought you were on sabbatical." Sabbatical? I marched straight to my old office. My name was gone from the door. Inside, my desk had been cleared out. My photos, my files, my notes all boxed up, just sitting there like I was some former employee who'd been quietly laid off. Nate wasn't even there. Apparently, he was working remotely while his new COO ran things. Later that day, I got a formal HR letter emailed to me, stating that my role had been restructured into an external consulting position, and I'd be compensated quarterly as needed. No benefits. No real responsibilities. Just a soft boot with a thank you check. I sat in my car in the parking lot for nearly an hour, staring at that email on my phone. Part of me wanted to storm back inside and raise hell. Another part knew it was pointless. This was Nate's show now. And clearly, I wasn't welcome. Worse than the betrayal was the silence. Most of the staff people I'd worked alongside for years acted like nothing had happened. They avoided eye contact. Some even sent me polite texts like, "Hope you're doing okay," as if I'd just been sick or on vacation. No one stood up for me. No one said, "This isn't right." And that's when it hit me. Loyalty in business, especially family business, is only good until power enters the room. I could have fought it legally, maybe, but I didn't want a war. Not yet. Instead, I walked away. I didn't have to sabotage anything. That's the part that still makes me shake my head. After I walked away, I thought I'd feel hollow. I expected to spend months mourning the company I helped save. But the truth? Once the initial sting wore off, I felt calm, free, even like I'd been holding up a ceiling that was never meant to rest on my shoulders in the first place. Meanwhile, things inside the company started cracking almost immediately. I still had a few friends on the inside, people who couldn't speak up before but quietly kept me in the loop. And what they told me was equal parts shocking and, honestly, vindicating. Nate had no idea what he was doing. His new COO? A guy he used to play beer pong with in college. Zero logistics experience. Zero understanding of our supplier relationships. His first move was slashing our marketing budget in half and canceling several long-standing vendor contracts because they looked outdated. The CRM system I implemented, the one that automated most of our inventory flow, was scrapped within a month. Replaced with some cheap plug-and-play software that couldn't even sync properly with our warehouse scanners. Orders started getting delayed. Shipments were going to the wrong addresses. Clients started calling in angry. And customer service? Nate laid off 2 of our top reps. Said they were too expensive. By the second month, they had lost 2 major clients I had spent years building relationships with. I watched from a distance as reviews started popping up online. Complaints about late orders, missing invoices, and unreturned calls. At one point, a former client reached out to me directly. He said, "Tyler, I don't know what happened, but it's like they forgot how to do business overnight." I didn't gloat. I didn't trash my brother or the company. I just thanked him for his feedback and told him I wasn't with the business anymore. But internally, I'll admit, it felt good. Not in a petty way, but in a truth has a way of showing up kind of way. And then came the moment that really sealed it for me. I got an email from one of our key suppliers. They'd received conflicting orders, no payment confirmations, and had been waiting weeks for a callback. The email ended with, "We miss working with you." It was always efficient and professional under your lead. That one hit different. Because it wasn't just validation. It was proof that the business I rebuilt had been mine in every way but name. That I hadn't imagined my value. That my work had meant something. If you've ever been blindsided by betrayal, then you know there's a moment where the pain starts to fade and the power starts to return. For me, that moment came in the form of an unexpected email. It was from a man named Victor, the founder of a mid-sized logistics firm we used to partner with. Back when I was running things, we'd done a few successful cross-country shipping deals. Nothing flashy, but they always delivered. Literally and figuratively. The subject line of the email read, "Lunch." I figured he wanted to catch up or maybe get the inside scoop on what happened with my family's company. So I said sure. We met at this low-key bistro downtown. The guy didn't waste any time with small talk. "Tyler," he said, "I've been watching what's been going on. Your family's company is a mess. But I remember how you ran things. Efficient, clean, scalable." I nodded cautiously. Then he hit me with it. "I want you to join my team. Not as an employee, as a partner. Help me expand the company, launch a new division, and I'll give you equity from day one." I almost choked on my water. I asked him why he'd want to take that kind of risk. Victor grinned. "Because I watch what you build. You're not just a manager, you're a builder. You saved a sinking ship with duct tape and sheer will. And now that ship's going down again without you." He pulled out a basic business plan, right there on a napkin. It wasn't formal, but it was solid. He wanted to create a new high-efficiency fulfillment service targeting independent product companies. A hybrid model, tech-forward, but personalized. He had the infrastructure. What he needed was vision and trust. I told him I needed time to think. He respected that. But before I left, he said one more thing. "Tyler, don't go back to rebuild something that never valued you. Build something that finally does." That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing. I thought about all those nights I spent in the old office, pouring my heart into a business that was never truly mine. I thought about the look on Nate's face when he got the company handed to him. And I thought about what it would feel like to do it my way, this time, with no strings attached. By morning, I had my answer. I emailed Victor back. "Let's talk next steps." So here we are, full circle. Pulseline was thriving. We were growing faster than projected, our client retention was high, and I was finally living life on my terms. No legacy to uphold. No shadows to compete with. Just purpose. Then, one afternoon, my phone buzzed with a name I hadn't seen in over a year. Nate. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. He didn't waste time. No pleasantries. Just launched into it. "Hey, I was wondering, do you have any bandwidth right now? Our warehouse software is tanking. We're behind on orders. Things are slipping. Could use a little advice, or maybe even a collaboration." I leaned back in my chair and just listened. The same brother who once let me be erased from our company now needed help. He went on about supply issues, staff turnover, and bad reviews. I could hear the stress in his voice. But what struck me most? He never actually apologized. "No, I'm sorry for what happened. No, I was wrong. Just, can you help?" For a few seconds, I said nothing. I thought about those nights I slept on the break room couch. The day I found my office packed in a box. The silence from Nate when I needed him most. Then I replied, "Nate, I wish you the best. But no, I'm not interested." He was quiet, then defensive. "Well, so that's it. That's it," I said. "You made your choice. Now I've made mine." And I hung up. Was it cold? Maybe. But it wasn't out of spite. It was closure. Because forgiveness doesn't always mean re-entry. Sometimes the best thing you can do is build a life so good that you no longer need the apology. Now, a few months later, Pulseline has doubled in size. We're expanding into a second location. I've been invited to speak at a leadership panel for young entrepreneurs. I'm mentoring a couple of local students who remind me a lot of myself when I was 24, hungry, heart-led, and ready to prove something. And as for my old company, rumor has it they're looking for a buyer. So yeah, I guess you could say I got the last word. But truthfully, the win wasn't about revenge. It was about finally choosing myself. What I love about Tyler's story isn't just the betrayal, it's the clarity that came after. Because sometimes the most powerful revenge is rebuilding so well, they have to ask you for help. If you've ever been pushed out of something you helped build, ask yourself, was it ever really yours to begin with? Have you ever been betrayed by your own family? Or taken back your power after being sidelined? Drop your story in the comments, hit that like button if Tyler's comeback inspired you, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful Reddit stories every day.